happened to the computer. I also own a shop in Middletown, and one of the guys was doing an oil change on an old 5 Chevy Impala. But he takes out the drain plug and brings it up to me and says, you know, there's something wrong with this drain plug. Threads, the top of the threads were all stripped out. I said, all right, no problem. I got this, was a 12 by 1.75 millimeter drain plug. He said, no problem. I got those right in stock. So I went out and got one. In the meantime, a car comes in and needs, with a check engine light on it. So while I'm digging through that, I normally don't bring my teaching computer, my teaching laptop to the shop because I don't want anything to happen to it. Well, unbeknownst to me, the mechanic brought in for the car for the check engine light, grabbed my teaching laptop with all my notes, all my pictures in it, and I have, I don't know if any of you have it here, the ease scan tool. I have loaded into my teaching laptop. So he grabbed that, went over to the vehicle, plugged it in, was using the laptop to get some readings, and his foot accidentally caught on the cord, and my laptop hit the concrete floor. Needless to say, the laptop didn't survive.
Is it a tough book?
Over to Best Buy as quick as possible, see if they can do some emergency work. It was a shattering experience. But just another interesting sideline in that old 5 Chevy Impala, after I got the drain plug, since the mechanic was ruining my laptop, I went over to the vehicle just to make sure the threads were good in the oil pan. And I looked at the oil pan drain plugs, and the thread was real fine, not real coarse like a 1.75, but real fine. I said, oh, there's something wrong. So I called up the Chevy garage. I said, what oil drain plug is supposed to fit in this thing? He says, 12 millimeter by 1.75. So I get out the old tap and die setting, get out the gauge, and I measure it. It has half by 20 English threads in this thing. So I talked to the owner afterwards. I said, you know, this doesn't have the right drain or oil pan in it because the drain plug doesn't match. You know, he says, I've been to the dealer 5 times for oil changes. Every single time I need a new drain plug. Every single time. So evidently the mechanic there went to the parts counter, got the one that the book calls for, went and just stuck it in, didn't fit, but he pushed it in anyway. So anyway, it just goes to show you, just because the book says something is the way it is, you gotta open up your eyes and look. At least we went and took a look and got the right drain plug in, and God won't have a problem ever again. But anyway, let's get to EVAP. That's what I'll be talking to you. Your favorite code, right? P40440 comes in, or P0445, right? Your favorite code. And, I'm going to talk to you about 2 cars that came into the shop. First one is an 01 Ford Explorer. Basically, everything up here is not exactly the way it shows what's on the car, but this is a good generic picture. Of course, we have the purge valve, the canister vent, the canister itself, the fuel tank, and the pressure sensor. The vehicle came in, it's been to several dealers, had a P0455 code. Every time we went to the dealer, they put a new gas cap on it, cleared the code, and said goodbye. Needless to say, a couple days or a week later, the light comes back on. I wish I had customers like that I could just put parts on and they'd be happy, but I don't have those customers. Anyway, he came to me, or to the shop, and see what we could do. I looked up TSB bulletins, and sure enough, there's a TSB bulletin that the gas cap is cracked. Well, this guy had 4 or 5 gas caps. They can't all be that bad. And so let's dig into this a little bit further. Let's take a look at how the system works. Normally, how the system works is we have gasoline vapors that are inside the fuel tank that go up open to the canister. The canister vent is normally open to the air. This one has a little filter on it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't have a filter on it. When the PCM determines it's time to purge out the canister, we have the purge valve, which is normally closed. Fords, they have a solenoid here, but it's a pulse width modulated solenoid, so the PCM doesn't give it a direct ground, it pulses the ground. So I go to warn you, if you do decide to ground a force solenoid, you may burn it out. It has to be pulsed. You just can't just ground it. Otherwise, you'll burn the solenoid right out. So when the PCM determines it's time to purge the system, we have 12 volts going all the time to the solenoid. The other wire goes to the PCM, and the PCM pulses. We allow a little bit of vacuum through and into the canister, which sucks up all the vapor that's inside the canister. And then this line here, which is hooked up to the canister, has a pressure sensor. I also forgot to mention that that's what happens when we decide to purge the system. The pressure sensor is going to tell the computer whether we see vacuum. If it doesn't see that we're getting any vacuum, it sets out a large leak code. If it shows that we are getting vacuum, then it'll wait to see if it holds vacuum. But, also the canister vent, as I said, is normally open. When the computer decides to do the test to see if the system has any leaks, it shuts this canister vent closed. So, how often does this canister vent close? Sorry?
Just when it does the test?
Just when it does the test. When does it do the test? Whenever it feels like it, right? You're going on a drive cycle, and geez, sometimes you can drive 10 miles, sometimes you go 200 miles. You never seem to be able to figure out when to decide, especially an EVAP test, which is has a lot of parameters that the computer must see. You got to be at the right temperature, you got to have the right amount of gas in it. There's a whole bunch of parameters. So this test to see if the system is any good or not doesn't happen very often. So this canister vent doesn't get open and closed that often. So here we have a leak. I usually like to check this canister right away. However, on a 2001 Ford Explorer, guess where all these parts are? The vent, the purge, and the canister is. Pardon me? Above the spring? Above the spare. So you got to take the spare out of the way so you can get some working room. What I do is I take the canister vent solenoid, I take a power source. First I make sure that test that we do have power going to it. We should have power so long as we have key on or the engine's running. Because the only thing that the PCM does is just ground it. What I do is unplug it once I check to see if we do have 12 volts. I take a battery pack and I put power and I put a ground to make sure that I hear the thing go clunk. Do I stop there? No, because I've been fooled many times. Even though you hear the solenoid go click, it doesn't actually mean that anything really happened inside other than something moved, but you don't know what moved. So then I take a hose, I put it on the vent or I put it on the canister side and I try to blow through it. When I don't have it power and ground, it's normally closed. I shouldn't be able to blow through it. As soon as I apply power and ground to the solenoid, it should open and I should be able to blow through it very easily. Needless to say, when I went to do this test, I was lucky on the first time. I tried to blow through that, couldn't blow through it. turned it on. I was able to blow through it. As soon as I took the power off, I tried it one more time. As soon as I took the power off, I could still blow through it. The thing got stuck. So, the easy test on these canisters is just what I said. All you need to do is just the solenoid. Take power and ground, power it up. See if you can blow through it. You should be able to blow through it before you do it, and after you take it off. I normally do it about 5 times, because sometimes I've done it where it worked like 3 or 4 times, on the 5th time it doesn't work. You have all kinds of things that could be above that spare tire. You could have spiders, you could have dirt, silt. Sometimes sometimes I check it to make sure the line, but sometimes the canister, the little piece of the charcoal, the little net that holds it free, breaks apart, and some of that charcoal goes in there. If you see charcoal pieces in there, you're going to have to replace the canister. So, needless to say, we put a canister vent on it, took it for a drive cycle, went through the drive cycle, and the process didn't have any further problems. Do you have any questions on the floor? The next car I have is a car you probably see a lot of. I had 2 Kia Sevias. One was a 96 and one was a 97. One came in with a P0442 small leak. The other one came in with a P0440 EVAP malfunction. It has the exact same type of setup. It has the canister vent, the pressure sensor. Pressure sensor, I know it shows that there's 2 wires on this one, and most of them have 3 wires. It acts just like a MAP sensor. 5 volts, ground, and a signal back to the PCM. So, we went to check out the canister vent solenoid. I did the test that we talked about. We had good power to it. I disconnected it. Power and ground. With no power, couldn't blow through it. Power off, could blow through it. Did that 5 or 6 times. Everything was great. One thing nice about the Kia Sevilla is the canister vent, and the purge valve are all in the engine compartment. So I didn't have any problems reaching all that stuff. So, we have a malfunction. We didn't have any problem there. So next I went to the purge valve. At the purge valve I need to have vacuum. I checked that I had vacuum. And I also checked to see if I had power and ground. And I didn't have good power. Of course, the system wasn't being called for yet, so I didn't have ground. So I decided to go ahead and put power and ground to the purge valve and see what happens. And it was working just fine too. This does not have, like before, a pulse width modulated solenoid. It just has an on and off, not pulse width. So I went to the pressure sensor next, checked it just like a MAP sensor. And when I had the system vacuum going into the canister, I had the vent closed, which is normally closed anyway. The pressure sensor didn't do anything, just stayed flatline all the time. Didn't register at all. So I was putting vacuum directly to the canister, but the pressure sensor wasn't doing anything. I said, oh, it must be a bad pressure sensor. Took the pressure sensor, I took the gas tank down, and sure enough, the pressure sensor is brand new. Brand new. Obviously, the customer's been someplace else before it got to the shop. That, of course, doesn't happen to your customers. I know they always go to you first, but sometimes And I get to the shop, I find some brand new parts on it that I didn't put on there. So I said, well, you know, it wouldn't be the first time you get a brand new part out of the box and it didn't work. So I said, let me just check it out. So I put 5 volts to it, had good ground, and I took it, and on the other side, on the side that normally is inside the fuel tank after I removed it, I just blew on it, and it worked just fine. 5 volts changed, went from 0 to 5, 0 to 5. I said, well, gee, this sensor's working really good. What's the problem? So I slapped it back on there. I said, well, geez, you know, I put vacuum through this system. I know this charcoal canister, this prevent solenoid is closed. I checked it myself. There must be a leak someplace. Don't forget that the fuel tank, this line here, it goes all the way back from the front of the car, all the way back to the rear. Because this canister on this particular car, since I don't have my pictures here, my poor laptop, is right underneath the hood. So, well, gee, this line here must be broken someplace. So I put a smoke tester on it. Couldn't find any leaks at all. There's got to be something wrong. But, you know, you have the smoke tester that has like the flow valve on it. I said, geez, you know, I was looking at that and I said, you know, I wasn't really getting that great a flow. So I decided to check the hose. And I checked the hose, and when this thing comes down, of course it doesn't look like this, I had a great picture here. It actually comes down, goes along, and then goes back up. Inside this line was liquid gasoline. So the gasoline was acting like a plug. So the car, which is not smart enough, says, hey, I'm putting vacuum back there. The pressure sensor says I'm not getting vacuum, I have a leak. But in fact, I didn't have a leak, I had a plug. Later on, this was happening a few years ago. Later on, I checked another key that came in with a similar problem. Key has now addressed this problem, and now they have a rerouted vacuum line system on a TSB bulletin, so it no longer acts like a drain trap anymore. So it doesn't collect the vapors anymore. So I said, at that time, what I did, I just made up my own line without like a drain trap on it, and didn't have any more problems. And that's basically the 2 cases. And the 3 cases, of course, with the 05 Impala with the drain plug. So this goes, you gotta make sure you check out the drain plugs. Well, thank you. You have any questions? That's a good idea too. Instead of watching the flow, you could take the cap off. But then the only problem with that is once you disturb this seal here, you may have had a leak before you started, because then you put it back on, and now it. That's true.
That's a given that you leave that alone.
I'd
rather see smoke out the gas.
I understand, but as a teacher, what I usually find is the unusual stuff that happens. So I have to mention at least that it's possible that might happen. I understand. Any further questions? Yes, sir. That you have to check your all data or your emissions to find that out. Whether you have a regular solenoid. I found out the hard way on the Ford that it's pulse width modulated. So that's something, as you said, you're anxious to get the billable hours. So you should check to make sure that it's either pulse width or just a regular solenoid. But it was mentioned under the description and operation section on I use other questions? Well, thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Jerry, I'm giving you